Now we're gonna go.
Hello, and welcome to the Colts Cover-2 podcast. I am Joel A. Erickson. I am joined by Nat Newell, my sports editor. This is the first impressions edition of the Colts Cover-2 podcast. This is also the first edition of the season where we've got me traveling. I am currently on I-65 heading north. We've mentioned this before. There's really no way around this if we want to get the first impressions edition up fast. I have to get home and I have to get places, and there's no way around it. Yeah, we just gotta kind of how we gotta do it. We'll get to the Colts. The Colts are the most important part here. Not all of the cars on I-65. The Colts won today, 41-20. This game, I think, one of the things that stuck out to me as I was walking down was there was less storylines off this game. There wasn't, sort of a bunch of subplots that I hadn't thought about. But that's also probably a good thing, because if you were paying attention to the rest of the NFL today, there were a lot of teams that played with their food and cost themselves. Like the Packers lost to the Browns in a game that they really had no business losing. The Falcons thought they were going to take control of the NFC South and instead got blown out by Carolina. There were a few more other ones that I can't remember because I'm in a car and driving, but just a handful of games where one team seems to clearly be the better team. They ended up losing, and it just kind of sticks out from the Colts didn't do that. The Colts didn't even really come close to doing that. Kenny Moore got a pick six right away, and from then on, the Colts were kind of in control of the game.
Fastest defensive touchdown in Indianapolis Colts history, thanks to Stathead and Pro Football Reference for confirming that for us. But yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, after last week with the leverage penalty, which was nuts, this was pretty straightforward. There wasn't a lot of bells and whistles on this one.
No, and like I said, I think that's good. This is the second time, and this will become a talking point soon, if not now. But the three teams the Colts have played are now a combined 1-8. The Dolphins and Titans both look pretty bad, and all of that's true. But I brought this up, I think, in another podcast, and it's important to remember that down the stretch last year, the Colts did win a bunch of games against some really bad teams, but they were winning by like one, and with fourth quarter comebacks, and really struggling to get the win. And they've played two of those teams so far. So I don't know. It seems like a good thing to me. It seems like a good idea to just beat the teams really badly, the bad teams really badly, and then the good teams in the NFL are going to be tough to beat no matter what. Well, we'll jump right into the categories though. We'll go with hero of the game. Who do you got for hero of the game for the Colts beating up on the Titans?
I went with Jonathan Taylor. I figured that's an easy one. There's a couple easy ones, but they're the same easy ones as they've been all season so far. Like the fact that he only had 17 carries as opposed to the 26 last week. Obviously, you wrote about the 46-yard run, the Friday Night Lights movie style break tackles on every defender. So I went with Jonathan Taylor. Who do you have?
I think before we get to mine, I just want to say on Taylor, I think the interesting thing to me about that run is that you kind of got to see every bit of what makes him good in one run. You saw the burst. He kind of threw every one of his moves. I think that was probably his best run since the Patriots run in 2021, just in terms of the sheer awe factor of it. I just think with Taylor that somehow we kind of forgot that Jonathan Taylor's really good, because he's not the most interesting part of the team when they're looking for a quarterback. And through the first 3 weeks, he's probably going to be the NFL's rushing leader. And that brings me back to some of the other stuff where, this is a guy who's on pace for at least 7,000 yards in his first 6 seasons, maybe as many as 7,500. Like, this is a really, really good player that we probably should appreciate a little more.
And yeah, I mean, and in your story, you noted that they threw the ball to get ahead, and then they ran it with Jonathan Taylor, which throw to win, or throw to get ahead, run to win, which is one of Shane Steichen's cliches, but it's true, and that's what they were able to do. It's good to see them. Like I said, it's good to see them do that without giving 26 carries to Taylor again, because at that he can't, no running back can keep that up, at least for more than one season, and you'd like to have him around for a while. But you're right. I think a lot of people have forgotten just how good Jonathan Taylor can be, and he's shown it so far this year.
The my hero of the game is Daniel Jones. I just think, and this goes to the throw to score, run to win thing. If you're watching on the video, by the way, all you're going to see is like shadows with me. It gets darker the further I get out of Nashville. But the thing that sticks out to me through the first 3 games is that as good as Jonathan Taylor's numbers look, if you go back and look at the first halves of those games, his numbers are not very good. They've struggled to get him going. They really struggled. I thought the Titans did maybe a better job than anybody early on him, and that's put the game in the lap of Daniel Jones, and he just keeps making plays. Maybe the Rams. I think the Rams have 12 sacks. Maybe that'll be the team that makes him look worse under pressure. But I actually thought the Titans pressured him quite a bit today, and he just handled it. They didn't get a sack off of him. He had one big 17-yard scramble. He knows where his outlets are. He's making good decisions. All of the things that we were told was the stuff that was crippling for him in New York have been things he's been good at through the first 3 games. And I think, like everybody, I'm wondering if the other shoe's going to drop. But the more games we have, the less you think the other shoe's going to drop.
Yeah, again, is he going to be this quarterback for 17 games? I don't think so, because he'd be Peyton Manning if he was. But if he's 85% of this, that's a heck of a quarterback, and that's all you could possibly ask for. You mentioned the 17-yard scramble. I mean, that was serious pressure, and he, it's a scramble. He's running for his life, but no dumb throws. He just ran. He had a play or two like that against Denver. Denver's obviously got a great pass rush as well. It is just shocking that pressure has not been a problem, number one, and he's not throwing interceptions either. I mean, not turning the ball over. I mean, no sacks and no turnovers. That's just, that's what the elite quarterbacks do. And again, at some point, you just got to give him credit. 3 games, we can still make some points about maybe this or that is an advantage for him. But, at some point, we got to start taking this really seriously about just how good he is.
The competition piece too. I didn't see exactly what the numbers were at the end, but I went back and looked real quick at the Chargers-Broncos game that was going on while I was writing my stories. And we talked a lot about that Denver pass rush and how good it was before the game. And then, that he navigated it pretty well. And I think with everything right now, when the teams they've played are 1-8, you think, well, maybe they weren't as good as we thought they were. But the Broncos had at least 5 sacks and 13 quarterback hits on Justin Herbert today.
Yeah, I mean, we're at the point that you got to start really seriously thinking about this is the real Daniel Jones, and what on earth were the New York Giants doing with him that caused him to look like the guy he was for his first several years?
Yeah, it's surprising. It really is. It's surprising just based on all of the stuff we were told about him. Like, we were told he couldn't avoid sacks. He's only taken 2 in 3 games against heavy blitz teams. We were told that he could only run and he wouldn't throw it. Well, the Colts aren't running him on design runs essentially at all, and he's been highly efficient. Like, the biggest thing, and I kind of wrote this today, and I don't want to step on any other categories too strongly, but it just feels like Shane Steichen found somebody who sees the game the way he does and prepares the way he does, and it's just leading to good things for both people.
And and he's throwing the ball downfield. Jones has never thrown the ball downfield. Even when he was, even at the beginning of his Giants career, where he had had the one good year. So it's not just that he's been really good. He's really good at the stuff that he wasn't supposed to be any good at all. And it's just, it's shocking to see, but you got to give him credit at this point.
Yep, we'll move on to villain of the game now. Who do you have for villain of the game from a game that the Colts won pretty handily?
This was not easy to come up with, so I'm going to be very selfish and say the Colts fans, or perhaps the Indy Star Colts fan readers. They're at 3-0. The Colts have an 86% chance to make the playoffs, according to history. We're looking at since 2020 when they went to the 14-team playoff. I generously wrote this story saying they have an 86% chance to make the playoffs. And it appears that no one wants to read that. So I am making fans the villain for not appreciating my work and just how I mean that this is a legitimate playoff team. I mean, the Jaguars are 2-1, but the Texans, who were the threat, are 0-3. So
Yeah.
this is a two-team race for the AFC South. And heck, they're 3-0. They're 3-0. And we can think bigger than just the AFC South division title right now. So fans appreciate what the playoff odds here and read. I want to do a playoff story every week with the odds, and I need people to read them to keep them doing them.
I think part of it is that most people expected to beat the Titans. I think fans did. I think if you looked at the Titans pretty closely, you could tell they were pretty bad. But that's a funny one. I normally do not do this. I normally try to keep these pods as Colts focused as possible, but with division rivals, I think you can do it a little bit. My villain of the game is Brian Callahan, and this is an easy villain. This is an easy villain of the game because the people at Nissan Stadium kept telling us over and over again that he's their villain. They booed him mercilessly. Now, granted, his decision making at the end of the first half when they had a 4th and half a yard to get, and he couldn't decide what to do and dithered around and took a timeout. The Colts had already taken the timeout, and then they got to delay a game, and then they kicked a 62-yard attempt, which was the second time that they kicked a 60-plus yarder. Neither of them went in. I get why they were booing. I was just struck by the fact that this is a team that everyone clearly knows is rebuilding, and it seems like, to me, Tennessee is already very, very upset with him. And I think that probably, if I'm a Colts fan, the fact that I'm saying all this stuff about the Titans potentially being in disarray, you probably feel good about that. You don't want your division rivals to look very good.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk that there was some things to like about this Titans team, but you just couldn't get on board with the coach. I don't think he's done anything to dissuade people from that opinion. So yeah, I mean he's a good choice. There was I make my list of categories and then I fill in the possibilities. And villain of the game was the last one I did because it was really difficult to find one. But Callahan is certainly a legitimate choice.
I know you. There's things on the defense that you can go to and or things on special teams, but you're really kind of picking nits more than you are getting something that was actually a chance for them to lose the game. We'll go to unsung hero of the game. There's a lot of people for this. Who do you have for unsung hero?
I went with Michael Pittman. He's been awfully good this year. Again, it was probably his best game today. He has played like a number one receiver. We've talked about this, I think, after the Dolphins game, but a number one receiver who recognizes the talent around him, which I like. But I mean, he's been excellent all year. Another good game today. I thought it was time and we haven't talked much about him, so I thought it was time to give him a little bit of attention as an unsung hero.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna do the same and kind of stay in the same vein with Alec Pierce as the unsung hero. Pierce left with a concussion. That is something to monitor. He's had 2 concussions previously in the NFL. But even though they took that catch away from him, he had 4 catches for 67 yards today. And none of them were really the sort of deep ball Alec Pierce catches that everyone says is the only thing he can do. This is 2 weeks in a row now where Pierce has been an outlet, a weapon for the Colts on crossers at the 10 to 15 yard mark range, or on shorter throws, and somebody that Daniel Jones clearly likes throwing to. I know they're close. They got close over the summer because they're both golfers. It's always hard to tell how much that matters, but it just feels like what we've seen from Pierce so far is that he's going to be more valuable to this team this year than just hitting the deep balls. Although he's pretty much hit 3 deep balls today. The concussion is what caused him to drop the ball or to lose the ball on the catch. He really wanted that, by the way. I don't know if they showed that on the broadcast, but they were trying to get him in the injury tent right about the same time the referees were saying that they weren't going to allow the catch, and he was pretty mad. He was way more mad than I've seen Alec Pierce get kind of ever before.
And he's still averaging close to 20 yards a catch, isn't he? I mean, it's pretty. Even
19.
though he is doing a little bit of everything, which he hasn't had the reputation of before. So that's, I mean, again, that just shows what kind of season he's having as well.
Yeah, it's 19 yards per catch, and if he doesn't hit the turf so hard, that's a 42-yard catch added on that, so he'd still be over 20. You know, it would have been a 5-catch, 109-yard game if they'd ruled that he'd held on to that. So we've talked about this before. These weapons are better. Are I don't know if better than people realize, but we kind of talked about how they're good weapons and they're living up to it so far.
And of course, if he had made that catch, he'd have over 100 yards receiving. And I think that would disqualify him from being an unsung hero. He would be a sung hero at that point. But yeah, you can't not like what Pittman, Pierce, Josh Downs, Tyler Warren. It just goes on and on. Jonathan Taylor did drop a pass. Probably because of the story you wrote. Every time you write about him being a great pass catcher, he then immediately goes in the tank catching passes. So that's Joel's fault, everybody. But please still like and subscribe to the podcast, despite Joel doing that to Jonathan Taylor.
He did catch 2 other passes, so maybe it was just a temporary.
He came back strong. Yes.
That brings us to unsung villain. Unsung villain of the game.
I went with this was not easy. This was probably the second to last one I filled in. I went with Rigo Sanchez because you haven't punted all year, which is a great thing for the offense. And then you have to punt, and he goes out there and absolutely crushes the punt. So, you're not encouraging them to go for it on 4th down because they know they can still count on you, even though you barely have to do any work. Not an easy one to pick. I went with Rigo. And his one punt this year, and it was a great punt.
I noted, as you are a noted lover of pace stats, what people are on pace for. He's currently on pace to punt 5.5 times this year.
I believe that would be at least a Colts record, perhaps an NFL record. Although I don't know how you'd measure that because he hasn't appeared in several games. So does that count or not?
No, he has. He has because he's older.
But certainly people have punted fewer than 5 times in a season before, but not having been in the punter for all 17 games. So that would be
it'd be a hard stat to figure out. I think that was the thing, and I don't know that I really got it across in the story we wrote, but just the thing that stuck out to me is we made this big deal of them punting for the first time, and then they didn't punt again the rest of the game.
Yeah.
All they did for the rest of the game was get themselves in scoring position. It's remarkable how well the offense is operating. My unsung villain of the game is going to be the Colts pass rush, and that's kind of a weird thing to say on a day that they got 4 sacks. But if you watch the game and kind of felt your way through it, it just feels like this is maybe going to be a problem for this team going forward. The Titans did not have their right tackle. They did not have their right guard, Kevin Zeitler. Interestingly enough, I saved myself in the quick story we post. I accidentally put Kevin Seitzer and somehow saw it. Kevin Seitzer, of course, was a Royals and Brewers third baseman. He was not a offensive right guard. I found either of those guys, and there was pressure. I just think that they should have been you were looking for them to be dominant in this game, and they fell short of that. And I think that gives me concerns for next week when they go up against Matthew Stafford or down the line when they go against better quarterbacks. Latu specifically, I know he's coming off of a hamstring injury, but he just wasn't as effective as I was sort of expecting to see against this Titans offensive line. They got 4 sacks, but some of that is just, garbage time. Quarterback's going to hold the ball and you're going to get some sacks. it felt like through the middle of the game that there just wasn't as much pass rush as you'd expect in a game against a team that playing without one half of its offensive line.
Well, you've blown this because this is not pass rush does not belong in this category. We'll get to it when I put it in the proper category. But Latu would be a good unsung villain in that he's just not. I hate calling him a villain because he's not trying out there as we always go through the old MCU villain characteristics.
Where they have reasons. They have reason. They want to do something good, and they just do it the bad way.
But hey,
they'd always have more trouble with the villain than you did.
Anytime we can get a Kevin Seitzer reference, that's good. Runner-up for the 1987 Rookie of the Year was never actually probably as good as he was as a rookie the rest of his career, but he was still pretty good.
Also, Bo Jackson hated him.
Really?
Yep, it's in the book about Bo Jackson, which comes up because I use Bo Jackson in my Jonathan Taylor story as an example of somebody who runs a halfback ISO, which will come up in a category coming up soon.
All right. Well, you messed this category up, so let's go. What's the next one?
Next category is number of the game. I think this is the Nat special.
Yeah, and I wish I was paying. I wish I had. I went with the 0 sacks. I just think it's incredible. We've already touched on this, but it's incredible that Jones has had problems with sacks his whole career. And again, the research says sacks are mostly on the quarterback. So while I think the Colts offensive line certainly deserves credit for a change in this, you also have to give Jones a lot of credit for figuring out a way not to get sacked. I think he said 2 sacks total this year, which is an insane number. You just got to love that number for if you're the Colts right now.
My number is 103. That is the number of points the Colts have scored this season. That is notable because I believe the stat is that that's never happened in the Indianapolis era of the Colts.
Yeah, pretty impressive. I noticed that too. And the 29 points, at least in the first 3 games, goes back even further than that in Colts history.
It goes to 1969.
1969. Yep. So 2 really impressive offensive numbers.
It's one of those things that you think about and you're like, yeah, they've scored a lot of points, but then you go, wait, this is the Peyton Manning Star Wars team. This is the team that had 3,000-yard receivers and once started 14-0. Like it really is impressive, regardless of competition, to end up. And I think the other thing about these teams is that some of these teams, especially the Titans, I think the Titans are generally regarded as better on defense than they are on offense, or at least they were last year. Denver kind of the same way,
It'd be hard to be worse on offense than they are. So I think that's a safe bet.
That brings us to the interlude. These are going to be tough for you. This is going to be carried a little bit by me. I'll just ask your opinion on one of these things. So my game day observation today is I don't know if it's that Titans fans are out and just any old person is showing up to the stadium, or if it's like people in Nashville just don't know what they're doing. But there were so many jerseys at this game of people who play for teams that are not in the game at all. There were Bears jerseys. There were Packers jerseys. There was a Hassan Kim San Diego Padres jersey, which I thought was insane because he's not a Padre anymore. He's an Atlanta Brave. What else was there? There was Antonio Gates. There was a Bijan Robinson jersey. Like, it felt like being at an international game looking out at the stands because there were so many jerseys of teams who weren't playing in the game. This is a huge pet peeve of mine. I can't stand it. Like, you can wear a normal shirt. If you're going to a game because you have a ticket, you don't have to wear a jersey. You can wear a shirt if you don't cheer for one of those teams. It's fine. No one is going to judge you if you just wear a black shirt or whatever. Like, just don't wear a jersey supporting a team that's not playing in the game. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't get it why you would do this at all.
And it's not like, I mean, the Titans have had some good years in Nashville. It's not like they've been awful for a long time. I mean, they've been pretty awful. They've been, worse than awful a couple of years lately. But it does seem like there should be a little bit more support for the Titans than there is. Obviously, I'm not on the road. I'm back in Indianapolis, so it's a little tougher to do game day observation. But I did want to credit them for their mocking of Cam Ward's Zombieland celebration. Anytime people get petty, I love it. I mean, I think that's
So you have to explain this a little. You have to explain this a little bit to me because you guys at the office noticed this and I didn't in the press box.
Yeah, and it's you like cover your eye. I wrote it in the story, and I don't remember now. You do something with your left hand in your eyes or something like that, and then you move your right hand up and down. And it's because they do the celebration because zombies don't go down easy. But I have no idea which I am willing to accept as a truth of zombies. But I don't understand how the dance reflects not going down easy. Zombies are often shown as being very, very slow too, so I'm not sure that that's something you want on a football field. But who knows? I mean, Western Kentucky invented it, I guess, in 2020, I want to say, and Cam Ward got it from when he was at Washington State. He got it from his offensive coordinator there. Cam Ward seems to have a good sense of humor about it, according to a couple of the stories I read. So I give him credit, but I'm always here for anything that's petty.
Yeah, I like all that stuff, especially when it's kind of like a welcome to the NFL. Yeah, rivalry is good in sports. There's nothing wrong with it. That brings us to the three football things that gave me joy. Number one on this list is very easy. It is the fact that they ran a halfback ISO, that they can run a halfback ISO. Fullback stuff is going to occupy a lot of these the whole season. But they ran a halfback ISO. Essentially, you have the line blocking down hard. You isolate a fullback. He has to block a linebacker. And then it's basically from that point on, it's just the running back versus whoever else is coming into the hole. Tyler Warren made a great block. This is the run that Jonathan Taylor did all the stuff on. The other thing, this is maybe a little bit of inside info for listeners, but Shane alluded to it in his press conference, so I think I can get away with saying it. He told us off the record on Friday that he'd put this play in. Every once in a while, Shane comes in and we talk football off the record, and we can't use that stuff for stories, but he told us it was going to be in. And so when I saw the replay of the play, I sat up and I went, wait, that was it. He ran the ISO and it went for a touchdown. I like any play. I think most of the offensive mind type people, like Shane is, have some pretty good sense of football history. And I think it tickled him a little bit to be able to run a play that is like I said earlier, this is like an SEC back when running backs were king type of play, because you had a fullback and you just had a guy leading for that guy. I think it probably gives Shane a few goosebumps to not just run that play, but have it work as well as it did.
Well, and Jonathan Taylor breaks 5 tackles on it, so let's not give too much credit here. We'll get to that later in one of the other categories for me.
That's the whole point of the ISO play, though. You're ISOing your star running back.
Yeah, that's fine. Keep going. What's number 2?
Number 2, football things that gave me joy. The referee said that the Titans were 8 inches short. It's a very specific number. They don't have signs for inches. I don't know, did New York tell them that when the review? Did they decide that? How did they measure it when they got out there? I have so many questions about why you would say 8 inches. You didn't say inches, you didn't say a foot, you said 8 specific inches. And no one else seemed to really think this was as funny as I did. But, even with a chip in the ball, how could you possibly know that?
Well, yeah, I would assume it comes from the automated measurer and they get a number for it. I hope so. That'd be great if we can have the actual inch count on how close the ball was to a first down every time.
It would come up really big in number of the day if they announced that the Colts have 6 inches to go and they don't get it or something.
And this also lets me tell one of my all-time favorite stories. Is I was at a Cathedral Roncalli High School game I was a high school writer when I first got to Indianapolis, and in high school games you're keeping score. So first down, write it down, 5-yard gain. Second down, 3-yard gain. And then the referee signals first down. And I'm like, well, this started here, and their ball is spotted here. It's not like I messed up the yardage. What had happened was the chain had a kink in it. It had a 2-yard kink in it. So they got a first down by only gaining 8 yards because the chain was messed up. So one of my all-time favorite high school football stories.
I have a friend who covers another team who has been insistent for more than a decade that it's ridiculous that we still use the chain system, and he celebrated very heavily when he found out about the chip in the ball. So that's an aside, but yes, it has felt weird for a while that we can track like how fast these guys are running on any given play, but we don't know where the ball stopped. Number 3 football thing that gave me joy. I just kind of like any scramble when it looks like a quarterback has no shot and they somehow come out of it. The Daniel Jones 17-yard scramble, I thought he was dead to rights. I thought there was no shot. He kind of popped out of there, ran around. Cam Ward had a few of these too. I just think it's probably one of the most fun things to watch in modern day football is when a quarterback is scrambling around and pops out of it. It kind of goes for any game. If I was watching a Sunday night game right now, I feel the same way about Mahomes or who's starting for the Giants. Is it Russell Wilson? Is Jackson Dart playing? What's going on?
I don't know.
Probably Russell Wilson.
It had to be Wilson. I'm not watching, so I haven't seen.
Who led the Giants on Sunday Night Football? That's disgusting.
That's New
Terrible
York.
decision.
They got to give him a game. I know. I agree. But the Jones play wasn't nice. It was a great play by him, especially for a guy who's got a reputation. I mean, obviously he's got a reputation as being a good runner, but he's got a reputation as someone who doesn't handle pressure well. And I don't know. In that situation, I imagine you're just running for your life no matter what. But it sure looked like he knew what he was doing, and it was a really nice play by Jones.
That gets us into some of the more serious categories. We're getting back into the more serious categories here. The Colts are still winning, so we have not gotten to blame yet. We are still on too much credit, too little credit. We're going to start out with too little credit. Who is getting too little credit for today's win?
I didn't write this one down because I got them confused. So you go first, and I'll think about it.
Too little credit for me, I think, is going to go to just the defense in general. If you watch the game, there's a way to watch the game where you feel like I don't really know. It feels like they gave up too many yards. Feels like there's too many passes for Ward. If you go look at their numbers, and I obviously don't have them in front of me because I'm in Kentucky somewhere driving, but if you go look up their numbers, this is a pretty good defensive game. I'm not even sure they gave up 300 yards total. It's 20 points, I know, but like 20 points in the NFL now is generally you should win the game if you give up 20 points. Like it's not an overwhelming dominant performance where you feel like this defense is ready to go up against the best quarterbacks in the NFL, but it's still a good day, and it started out with Kenny Moore getting a pick 6. So I think the defense in general probably deserves a little more credit than they're going to get off of this game.
Yeah, they 196 passing, including the sack yardage, 86 rushing, so less than 300 yards. I will go with it's almost copying you, but I just can't think of anything else. But too little credit for the secondary. I mean, I think maybe they gave up some plays, but they were so far ahead at that point. You're just trying to let them score slowly. And the whole time of possession thing, which the Colts have dominated. I got to look at the final number here, but at one point it was crazy in favor of Tennessee. Ended up pretty even, 31-19 for Tennessee, 28-41 for the Colts. But interesting that after the first 2 weeks when the Colts had dominated time of possession, the Tennessee actually won it today, and that which we've said every week, time of possession is kind of a funky stat and not overly meaningful, but I think the defensive secondary should get more credit for Moore had the interception. Obviously, he got plenty of credit for that. But just in general, I thought the secondary did a nice job. And it seems like Cam Ward can play. He just has zero help at all. So that's part of it too.
Yeah, weirdly, in Ask Joel, I got a couple of Titans questions. Like, they were like, hey, I know you don't cover the team, but what do you think of the Titans? And I was like, my number one takeaway is that this team is not talented enough.
Yeah.
Like, I liked a lot of what I saw from Cam Ward too. It just felt like he didn't really have outlets. The pass to Moore notwithstanding, that felt like a rookie mistake. But other than that, there were some stretches there where he looked really, really good and was operating the offense really well and completing passes. They just don't have a lot of guys. Like Calvin Ridley kind of looks washed. Tony Pollard doesn't do much for me as a runner. It's just that's a team that's in the early stages of the rebuild, and I think it's always tough for a quarterback when you get picked at the beginning of the rebuild as opposed to having some pieces around you. But that's the Titans. I think the secondary is probably a good pick there. Too much credit. Who is getting too much credit for today's win?
Well, in my continuing effort to tear down, to be the only person in Indianapolis tearing down Tyler Warren, it's Tyler Warren. He throws one block against the linebacker. Tight ends are supposed to be able to block linebackers, okay? That's how this works. And he only had like 30-something yards receiving today. So I'm mostly kidding here. Tyler Warren's been fantastic as a rookie tight end, but most rookie tight ends generally don't do very well, so I'm sticking with Tyler Warren getting too much credit. Again, one block on that run. Jonathan Taylor did all the work. And, if he's going to break 5 tackles every time he carries the ball, they should give it to him more, after me saying that they shouldn't give him more carries.
He did have a drop. He did have an early drop, which is surprising. So maybe that helps your ongoing pace. Too much for me. This is going to be a kind of expanded category. Too much credit for me is the run game in general. I listened to a couple of national podcasts earlier this week, and the way they were talking about the Colts offense was the inverse of what's actually happened. They were saying, you look at Jonathan Taylor's yardage, you look at the big run against the Broncos, and it's clear that they're running the ball and Daniel Jones is just playing off of that. It's the opposite. It's been the opposite. They have thrown to score and run to win. And there have been times in each one of the 3 games so far when you're going, hey, they're not really getting a lot of push up front to get Taylor any room. Now, it has been good in the back half of all 3 games. But they from a national perspective, people looking in at the Colts, I think they're just, number one, this always happens with national guys. They didn't watch the game no way. But number 2, you're still sticking to what your preseason expectation was for the Colts, where it was like they're going to have to run the ball and they can't throw it. They are throwing early and often in games, and it has worked very well for them since Rigoberto Sanchez has only punted once. And you should do a little more research on that. If you're trying to answer the question on your podcast of what is Daniel Jones doing well, I need you to not say it's because they've run the ball well early.
100% fair. I have you said it perfectly. I don't think I have anything to add to that.
That brings us to our last 2 categories. These are the narratives that are talked about. They're going to be talked about this week. One to throw. We always start with one to throw away. That's the whole point. You throw it away, and then we leave you with the one to go on. What is your one to throw away from this Colts game? Something that we're talking about now that's not going to be a thing the rest of the season.
Well, and this is clearly where you screwed up, because the pass rush is one to throw away. You put it in the wrong category. Everything you said is accurate, but you just can't. As bad as the Titans' offensive line is, I don't think I put a lot of stock in, the pass rush is solved. Maybe people aren't talking about that. They're probably smart enough to realize that the pass rush is not solved. They really need Latu to show something, and if he's just going to be a good player, this is going to be an issue all year long. Maybe he gets better as the year goes along. We know DeForest Buckner is a good pass rusher for a defensive tackle, but I don't believe anything that we saw today should change anyone's opinion about where the pass rush for the Colts is at.
Yeah, I think that's good. One to throw away for me is going to be just the leg strength thing with Spencer Schrader. He has leg strength. There's become this weird thing where since he hasn't made a 50-yarder, that it's a leg strength issue and he doesn't have it. He kicks the ball really far. Like, he can do that. Today, if you go back and watch that kick, there's a bad snap. Luke Rhodes missed. It doesn't happen very often, but Rigoberto Sanchez has to reach back to his hip to get the ball, and he put it up. It seems like that's not a very big deal. It is. I kind of was talking to Rigo a little bit about holding in the locker room this week, and he was saying it's got to be 1.3 seconds. I didn't have a stopwatch on the play, but he's expecting the ball in his hands at one point. He has to go get it, moves it back. I think it threw off the operation. He can kick it long. Now, I think if he has issues continuing, it's going to be, is there something in his process that is like when he gets into a longer one, it's a mental block, something like that. It's just not a leg strength thing. Every time he misses a kick from range, it's not because of leg strength. I've seen him kick the ball through 64 yards. He did it on the training camp field. Now there's lots of guys with leg strength who can't make it from 50 yards. Matt Gay has been one of those guys the last couple of years. It's just not don't talk about it in a way that's like, well, Spencer Schrader doesn't have the leg. He's got the leg. It's just, is the leg pointed in this case, is the
Well, you're breaking up a little bit there, Joel, but this is clearly you subtweeting me because I had said that Shane or Spencer Schrader was the one to throw away last week. So you're just trying to get back and get even with me. Well, I think we lost Joel in the wilds of no Wi-Fi Kentucky. Oh, are you back?
We have to go on. That's what we finish on. Now we've got me going through the worst part of Kentucky.
Yeah, we better go quick. My one to go on, we've already touched on this, is Daniel Jones. You could also pick Shane Steichen, just what they've been able to do on offense this year. I mean, again, are they going to be doing it at this level the whole season? I think that's an unrealistic expectation. But do I believe in this at this point? I think I got to say I do. I mean, I brought up the Saints from last year saying, hey, anything can happen in 2 games. Well, I can't really now say anything can happen in 3 games. Yes, Miami and Tennessee look bad, but they didn't look this bad in other games. Denver's defense is very good. Did the Colts actually lose that game because of the weird leverage call? I'm willing to buy that, but it wasn't the offense's problem why they lost that game. So I am going, whether you want to pin that on Daniel Jones, whether you want to pin that on Shane Steichen, I'm good either way. But that's one to go on. That this is they are a legitimately good offense.
Yeah, I like that. My one to go on is I just think we're going to be talking about pass rush for a little while. It doesn't feel like they're winning enough. It doesn't feel like they're getting enough initial pressure. A lot of the sacks today were second effort type things. The pass rush to me right now is my biggest concern moving forward as they get into the harder games. Is, are they going to be able to rush the passer against some of these better quarterbacks?
You're using pass rush in 2 categories? I don't think that's allowed. This is your game.
Yes, it is.
I don't think.
I know that's why it's allowed. It's my game.
No, again, I mean, like, okay, I dominated the first in competitive first impressions. I clearly won week 1. I was willing to give you week 2, but no, you didn't show up. Now you're driving. Okay, maybe you deserve a little handicap, but no, putting pass rush in 2 categories. I'm counting this as a win. Is it fair that I am technically Joel's boss and I am deciding who wins or loses? No, of course not. It's not fair, but that's but that's where we're at, and that's what we're going with. So, any last thoughts before we lose you again in the wilds of Kentucky?
No, not really. It's like I said, going down to the locker room. I was just kind of thinking, yeah, the game kind of went the way it was supposed to go based on what I thought of these 2 teams. Maybe the offense was probably a little better than I expected, but now we get another real test. The Rams lost today, but I think everybody knows that's a team that's a real test, especially flying out there to Los Angeles to see, how much of a test is this going to be? Can the Colts get to 4-0? Which, I think if they win next week, that kind of blows everybody's expectations into the water. So that's where I'm at.
3-0 blew my expectations.
And yeah, I'm with you. I kind of think Daniel Jones and this offense, I think it's going to be some version of this going forward. So yeah, that's what I've got. I'm going to finish my drive, and we'll talk to you guys midweek.
All right. Like and subscribe the podcast, and everybody wish Joel a safe ride home.